All right, welcome everyone. This is Steven Kohnke and Simon Zryd with In the Driver's Seat, the podcast that is all about helping business owners exploring how to improve the value of their business and provide some insights, some strategies, and some tactical steps that owners can take with them and implement in their business. Steven Kohnke and myself are partners at Denver Business Coach. We are both certified exit planning advisor, certified value builders, and have been in this industry of value building and preparing businesses for exit for almost a decade now at this point. And we also have a team of 8 advisors at Denver Business Coach as well, who are all seasoned, have owned their own business. Many of them, if not all of them, actually have sold their own business as well. So this is value building is a conversation we're very passionate about. And this podcast is inspired by the fact that the vision and the dream of building and selling a business is very alluring, and that's why a lot of business owners go into business in the first place. But then matching that with the reality of what is actually happening, we just thought, hey, we need to bring this conversation of value building and preparing your business for an exit much more front and center earlier than a few years before one wants to sell the business. And with that, I'm turning it over to Steven to just kind of talk a little bit about what the landscape looks like for business owners in terms of exit and being able to reap the fruits of the work that they've put into their business.
Yeah, it's a excuse me, cut that part out. It's the the world that we're in right now in small business. A lot of business owners are trying to exit their business, and a lot of them believe that when it is time to sell their business, they're going to sell it and they're going to be able to retire on the money that they get. The stats out there not only are not in favor of the business owner, 3 out of 4 businesses that actually go to the open market do not sell. That does not count the ones that just decided to shut down. So that number is even greater. Businesses that don't transact. That coupled with up to 70 or 70 to 90% of a business owner's revenue is tied up in their business. So the fact that most business owners don't sell and that they have built their wealth and reinvested into the business over decades and they can't harvest that wealth, it's a real problem. So that's why we exist. That's what the message we're trying to get across here, and reach as many business owners as we can to help them best prepare and mitigate against the risks of growing a business without value in mind, without exit in mind. So that's why we're here today.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. We had a team meeting last week, and one of the things we talked about is, there are very few business owners who are really at that point where they own a company and they oversee it and they've like removed themselves from the day-to-day operations. But the reality for most business owners is that they're working 40 plus hours in their business, just maintaining status quo, maybe growing a little bit, but
Mhm.
but there's always this balance between like strategy and what are you working on, and then the tyranny of the urgent. And this is why we're often say like we ideally we come in 3 to 5 years before an exit, because it takes time, and it's not like you can make all these changes in the last year and all of a sudden you go from X valuation to a much higher valuation, but it really takes time to justify the increase of valuation, but then also implement the strategies that come along with that. And so today, I think one of our topics is around. I think it speaks to a lot of like service-based businesses, and where you have a very highly skilled professional going out on their own, starting their own business, and that is basically uh, an owner or a business relying on referrals for their business, right? And so maybe with that, instead of building a marketing machine, and so let's explore that a little bit. Like, how does it happen? Why is that such a common thing? And then what are some ways that an owner can mitigate that risk or kind of like get out of that trap that keeps them at a very, not even a low valuation, but probably you can speak to this more, Stephen, also the ability to even sell,
Yeah,
at
I
all.
think it comes down to the the owner being trapped, right? The owner traps. The owner being trapped in the business, and the business gets revenue, generates revenue through personal relationships of the owner. Yeah, in effect, I mean that's how a referral is most cases someone is going to refer a business to an individual, not necessarily a company. And that's what we're really looking for when it comes down to value is our customers doing business with you because of some sort of personal relationship with the owner, or are they doing business with the business because of reputation or whatnot. So, I'm sure you come across business owners who talk about this a lot of, I'm 100% referral based. Like that sounds great. You're probably not, you're spending your time on marketing. You're not, might not be spending money. So your margins might be looking good. Uh, but when we come down to doing an adjusted EBITDA statement, when you're valuing a business, uh, you may have heard of add backs, right? It's maybe things that owners are getting perks from. At the same time, if there's zero marketing spend, zero advertising, zero business development spend, everyone knows that every business needs to have some sort of spend. So when valuators are looking at a business, they'll say, "Oh, there's nothing being spent in business development. That means we're 100%. So we got to add this into the adjusted statements at whatever percentage." And so it's actually taking away from your profit margin anyway when it comes to the actual value. So add backs can add to your EBITDA. And then if there's like standard business costs like marketing and things like that, that actually gets put onto the P&L as an expense for the adjusted and taken away. So, if a business owner who is 100% referrals wants to sell their business, it's really smart to at least have some sort of new business generation coming from some sort of marketing sales machine, because regardless, it's going to get added back. It's an inflated
Yeah.
profit.
I think one thing that in addition to what you're saying, one thing that I see where there is an ability to also sell is there's a difference between if you are, let's say, a CPA or an insurance company, and you have a recurring book of business, or you have really sticky customers, right? That you can then transition to a new owner, or there's just rules of thumb of how a book of business is being bought up. But then if you're so there's an opportunity there, but you're really not breaking out of anything than what the rule of thumbs are, and are not really able to build exponential value in that. And then there's other industries, like let's say you're a contractor and you just get a lot of business through referrals, but it's one-off projects. They're really at that point is, there's not a lot of value to the company, and people do business because of you, but even your client base is not something that's transferable. I mean, maybe you get a little bit of money for your phone number or your website or something, but not at all related to the profit that you're pulling out right now, probably.
Right.
So, I mean, we're at Denver Business Coach, we're kind of in that relationship as well, where we have a lot of trusted advisors that refer business to us, and we love that. And we're at a point where we understand that that's something we need to work on, or we're working on. And so what are some things that, let's say someone is an accountant, or they're a fractional CFO, or they're some type of an advisor to a business, what can they do to kind of understand, yes, networking and building relationship is important, but how do I make it less dependent on me?
Yeah. I think there's a couple different routes, kind of depending on the goals and how one of those advisors wants to build their business. I believe, especially nowadays, investing in a digital marketing strategy is smart, and really understanding how that whole world works, and being able to generate leads through a website or a digital presence is probably the next step someone can do. Um, in those type of like highly knowledgeable areas, advisors where you're essentially being hired because of what you know, it can be really difficult to bring on other people and transfer that knowledge. It's you're kind of looking for people that are like you in a way, that can provide a level of service. So that part's a little bit more difficult, but I bring that up to say, if you can build out uh, your own group of advisors that can generate their own referrals too. I mean, that can help kind of dissipate the more reliance on the owner themselves for referrals. Still have a referral heavy lead generation, but it's not solely based on that individual, which is more or less what we're looking for. But again, I think having a diverse channel strategy to generate new business is the way to go, and that's what's going to actually drive up value.
Mm-hmm. I think one thing, that I would maybe add to this conversation is also, when oftentimes we work with business and we look at growth strategies, and we use tool like the business model canvas, or always we ask, okay, how can we bring in, what would a recurring revenue stream look like in a business? And
Great point.
I do think there is a reality, or something that anyone can look at, is you probably, if you're a specialist, highly skilled worker, you're probably, that is going to be whatever the product or services that you're selling might not be something that is easy teachable, right?
Mm-hmm.
But maybe there's something there that could be a lower level product or service, or more of a maintenance service, or a preemptive service that is teachable, and you can bring that in-house. And one example might be like, you're an engineering firm, and maybe you're introducing like home inspections, or home inspections, or like structural reviews, for example. And that could be something that's a pretty clean and easy way to do. You can do that within your company, and you can build strategic relationships there. But then also you can still, on the engineering side, work on the new builds and the remodels, and like more complicated work, but you're introducing a lower tier service that can then allow a lot more transactions that are less dependent on your high level skill set.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Okay, so to summarize, we've talked about 3 strategies at this point. The first one is digital marketing, right? To establish a flow of leads coming to your business that is not dependent on you. And that could be paid advertising, social media, outreach, appointment setting. It's like there's different strategies around that. But is there a way for the business to generate leads without you having to do the work and relying on your personal network? So that's definitely one focus. And then, Stephen, what was the second one?
Second one would be bringing on similar advisors or similar specialists that also are oriented in developing a referral network. So it's not just the owner who is getting referrals, getting and receiving referrals. There's other people under the same umbrella that are acting in that same way.
Okay, yeah. So really expanding, staying within the same strategy, but having more people in there to kind of like make it less dependent on yourself, essentially.
Right. Yeah.
And then the third one was, modifying your business model a little bit, where you as the owner are not necessarily also the technician that does all of the work, but figuring out, can you have a lower tier service offering that you can have a recurring revenue stream with that. At that point, you can market in a different way than because you're the highly skilled worker, essentially. I mean, we've seen that with several of our clients being able to implement that. And then, you know, if all else fails, at least you have like that book of business that you can sell as well. But it really decreases the business's dependency on you as an owner as it relates to marketing and sale, for sure. So, all right. I will keep it short and succinct today. With that, I want to thank everyone for dialing in today into our podcast. Again, our mission is to introduce the conversation of value building as early as possible, so that you can take that into your strategic planning, and just every year, every quarter, take a few specific steps towards preparing yourself for an exit and what's next. All right. Thank you. Until next time.
All right. See you next time.
Thank you, Stephen.